Your thumb hovers, the screen glows, old words stare back. You scroll again, seeking answers that never come. Each tap pulls you deeper. Into what? A void you can't name. You think this proves you care. That staying tethered shows strength. But what's left? When you've given hours to their silence? Why do you search for meaning in a door that's locked? You tell yourself it's closure. That one more glance will explain. But each check is a weight you add to a system already cracking. You're not finding truth. You're building chains. The cost isn't loud. It's quiet. A slow bleed of presence. Each moment you linger, you lose ground. Your mind loops. Their absence grows heavier, not because they left, but because you keep reaching into a space that holds nothing. You don't see it, but the system frays. Your clarity dims. Your center shifts to someone who isn't there. You have power over your mind, not external events, Marcus Aurelius said. Their silence is a wall. You don't need to climb it. You don't need their key. The door stays shut, and you can turn away. That's not loss. That's control. What do you gain by knocking where no one answers? You think staying proves loyalty. To who? To a ghost? To pain? Look closer. Each tap, each scroll is a choice, not theirs. Yours. You're not trapped. You're holding the rope. What's stopping you from letting it fall? You don't have to keep knocking. The silence isn't your enemy. It's your ground. Step back. The system resets when you choose to walk away. You stay because you think it shows you care. Each message you draft, each profile you check, it's proof, isn't it, that you're loyal, that you're strong. You tell yourself, this is what holding on means. You're not running. You're enduring. You're proving something to them, to yourself, that their absence doesn't break you, that you can handle the weight. But pause. Look at the logic. You're not proving strength. You're building a trap. Each time you reach, you tighten the loop. You think caring demands your presence. That staying tethered keeps you whole. You're wrong. Caring doesn't mean chasing their shadow. It doesn't mean bleeding your time. It doesn't mean carrying their silence like a debt. You're not saving anything. You're sinking. Their void isn't your burden. You don't owe them your pain. You don't owe them your ground. Detach. The system resets when you stop reacting. Principle 1. You don't answer the pull. Your phone lights up. A name flashes. Not theirs, but close enough. A friend mentions them. A song plays. The memory stings. You feel it. The urge to check. To open that old thread. To scroll through their silence. You tell yourself, it's just a glance. Just one look. It won't hurt, but it does. Every time. You know this. Yet your thumb moves. The screen unlocks. You're back in the loop. Chasing something that's gone. Each check isn't harmless. It's a cut. A small one. But they add up. You think you're searching for closure. For answers. But what do you find? Nothing new. Just the same words. The same void. And each time you look, you lose something. Not them. You lose you. Your time. Your ground. Your presence. The system tilts toward their absence. Not your strength. You don't control what others do, Epictetus said. Their silence isn't your puzzle to solve. It's a signal to stop. Like a locked gate you keep rattling. You don't need to break it down. You don't need their answer. The gate stays shut, and that's enough. Turn away. That's not surrender. That's command. So why do you keep reaching? Habit? Hope? Fear? You think one more check will change the past. It won't. It only chains you to a moment that's done. Each tap is a choice, not theirs. Yours. You're not trapped. You're holding the key. Delete the app. Close the tab. Let the screen go dark. That's not running. That's reset. You thought you were done. The screen stayed dark. You held the line. But it comes again. The pull. A memory. A trigger. A fleeting thought of them. Your hand twitches. The urge to check. To scroll. To see if they're there. It's familiar. Comforting almost. You tell yourself it's nothing. Just a moment. Just a glance. But you know better. Each glance is a step back. Into the loop. You broke. The cost isn't new, but it's real. Each check rebuilds the chain. You're not finding them. You're losing you. Your time. Your clarity. Your presence. The system you reset starts to tilt again. Toward their absence. Toward pain. You think you're in control. You're not. You're slipping into a cycle you already know. You don't need their answer, Epictetus would say. Their silence isn't your task. It's a gate you've already passed. You don't turn back. You don't knock again. The pull is a test, not a truth. Refrain, and you stay free. Why do you waver? To feel something? To fight the numbness? You think checking will ground you. It won't. It traps you. In their void. Pause. Breathe. Keep the screen off. That's not hiding. That's discipline. You don't need their presence. You have your own. The pull is strong, but you're stronger. You don't have to answer it. You don't have to chase their shadow. One choice breaks the cycle. Start here, now. The screen stays off, and you stay whole. You don't have to react. The moment you choose not to react, a crack forms in the old pattern. It's small, barely visible, but it's there. What happens when you widen it? When you refuse to let their absence steer you? Principle 2. Silence isn't defeat. Their words echo, not spoken, but typed. A message from months ago, a promise they didn't keep. You read it again, your chest tightens. You want to respond, to explain, to make them see. You type, delete, type again. You think speaking will fix it, that your words will pull them back, make them understand. You're wrong. Each unsent draft is a weight you carry. Each explanation is a plea you don't need to make. The urge to speak is loud. It feels like power, like reclaiming your place. But it's a trap. Every word you offer feeds their silence. It doesn't build you. It breaks you. Slowly. You give them your time, your clarity, your ground. And what do you get? Nothing. Just a screen that stays blank. A void that grows heavier because you keep filling it with your own pain. Their silence isn't a challenge. It's a wall. A closed gate doesn't need your knock, Seneca might say. You don't owe it words. You don't owe it reasons. The gate stands, and you can walk away. That's not loss. That's strength. Silence isn't defeat. It's choice. So why do you explain? To prove your worth? To erase their rejection? You think words will rewrite the past? They won't. They only chain you to a moment that's gone. Say less. Hold back. Let their silence stand. That's not hiding. That's control. Keep your words. They're yours, not theirs. The stillness lingers, and you don't flinch. Their absence doesn't pull you back, but the urge creeps in to speak, to explain, to fill the quiet with words. You feel their silence like a challenge. You think responding will prove you're strong, that your voice will reclaim your place. You draft the message. You pause, but the words burn. You want them to know, to see you. You're wrong. Each word you give is a chain you forge. The cost isn't loud, but it cuts. Each explanation feeds their void. It doesn't lift you. It pulls you down. into shame. You're not proving strength. You're pleading for their nod. Your time, your ground, you give it away to a silence that doesn't care. You think you're winning. You're not. You're losing to a game that's done. Your silence is enough, Seneca would say. You don't owe them words. You don't owe them reasons. Their quiet is their choice, not your burden. Say less, and you stand. That's not defeat. That's power. Why do you speak? To erase rejection? To fight the sting? You think words will bind you closer. They don't. They trap you in their frame. Stop. Delete the thought. Keep your voice. That's not hiding. That's control. You don't need their answer. You have your own. The gate stays closed, and you keep moving. Their absence doesn't need your voice. You don't need to explain. You don't need to be heard. Silence cuts the loop, and you stay free. Silence isn't surrender. A river pulls. You don't swim. The bank holds you steady, unmoved. What happens when you trust that stillness? When you let the current pass without chasing it? Principle 3. The void isn't your fault. Their absence lingers. A name not spoken. A call not answered. You sit with it, and the mind spins. Why did they leave? What went wrong? You replay the moment, the words, the silence. You search for your mistake. You think, if you find it, you'll fix it. You'll understand. You'll make the void make sense. So you dig. You overthink. You chase the reason, like it's a key to unlock their choice. But here's the cost. Each thought tightens the loop. You're not finding answers. You're building anxiety. Each question you ask pulls you deeper into grief. Not theirs, yours. You lose hours, days, to a puzzle that isn't yours. They're leaving. It's not your weight, but you make it so. You let it define you. You let it steal your presence, and you don't even see it. Their choice isn't your chain, Epictetus would say. You don't control their steps. You don't own their reasons. Their void is theirs, not your failure, not your fault. It's a signal to stop digging, to stop chasing, to breathe instead. So why do you keep searching? To prove you're enough? To erase the rejection? You think understanding will free you. It won't. It only binds you to their absence. Pause. Redirect. Feel the air in your chest. That's your ground, not their silence. That's your reset, not their answer. The silence settles, and you don't stir. You didn't speak. You didn't chase. But the mind turns inward. Their absence, it whispers. You did something wrong. You missed a sign. You weren't enough. You overthink, and the spiral starts. You dig for your fault. You think finding it will make sense of their leaving, will make the void less heavy. You're wrong. Each thought tightens the chain. The cost is quiet, but deep. Each question builds anxiety. You're not solving anything. You're sinking into grief. Your focus blurs. Your breath shortens. Your ground slips, and you don't see it. You think you're understanding their choice. You're not. You're blaming you for a decision that's theirs. The void grows heavier because you keep digging. Their path isn't your weight, Epictetus would say. You don't own their leaving. You don't carry their reasons. The void is theirs, not your failure. Stop digging. Breathe, and you stand. That's not running. That's strength. Why do you search? To prove you're enough. To dull the rejection. You think blame will free you. It won't. It traps you in their story. Pause. Feel your feet. See the room. That's your truth, not their absence. That's your reset, not their fault. The void stays. You don't fill it. You don't chase it. You let it be, and and you keep your center. Break the loop, and you stay whole. The void is where it clears. You didn't chase the void. You let it stand, and you're still here. What happens when you refuse to beg for their clarity? When you claim your own? Principle 4. You don't beg for clarity. The screen glows. Your fingers hover. A draft sits, half written. Words you've typed before. Words you'll never send. You want to ask why. To demand answers. To make them see you. You think clarity comes from them. From their response. From their truth. So you write, delete, write again. You cling to the hope that their words will free you. That their explanation will close the wound. But it doesn't. Each draft pulls you deeper into emptiness. You're not gaining ground. You're losing it. Every unsent message is a plea you don't need to make. It's not clarity you're chasing. It's their approval, their validation, their nod to say you're enough. And each time you reach, you erode your own ground. You give them power over your peace. Clarity comes from you, not them, Seneca might whisper. Their silence isn't your puzzle. It's a closed book, and you don't need to read it. You don't need their reasons. You don't need their truth. Your truth is enough. That's your center, not their reply. Why do you beg? To prove you're seen, to erase the numbness. You think their words will heal you. They won't. They only bind you to a moment that's gone. Stop typing. Delete the draft. Let the screen go dark. That's not weakness, that's command. You don't need their clarity. You have your own. The void fades, but the urge returns. To know, to understand. Their silence, it pulls. You feel it. The need to ask why. To write the message. To demand their truth. You think their answer will close the wound, will make you whole. You cling to the hope that their words will light the dark. You type, pause, type again. You're wrong. Each draft is a chain you forge. The cost is subtle, but real. Each plea deepens emptiness. You're not gaining clarity. You're losing ground. Your mind locks on their silence, not your strength. You give them power over your peace. You think you're seeking truth. You're not. You're begging for their nod, their validation, to say you're enough. And each reach erodes your center. Your truth is enough, Seneca would say. You don't need their reasons. You don't need their light. Their silence is their choice, not your cage. Delete the draft, and you stand. That's not weakness. That's command. Why do you beg? To be seen? To fight numbness? You think their clarity will save you. It won't. It traps you in their frame. Stop. Breathe. Let the screen stay dark. That's not running. That's awareness. You don't need their answer. You have your own. The silence stings, but it's yours. You don't chase their answers. You don't beg for their light. Dice engage, and the wound starts to close. You don't owe anything. 75% of people check an ex's profile monthly. It changes nothing but the time you lose. What happens when you stop carrying their weight? When you let their absence be just absence? Principle 5. Their absence isn't your failure. You wake. The room's quiet. Their name crosses your mind. Uninvited. You wonder where you went wrong. What you missed. What you could have said. Done. Been. You blame yourself for their leaving. You think it's your fault. That you weren't enough. So you replay it. Again and again. Each thought, a weight you add to a system already bending. You're not fixing anything. You're breaking you. The cost is silent, but heavy. Each self-blame builds invisible pain. It doesn't show, not to others, but you feel it in your chest, in your quiet moments. It steals your discipline, your clarity, your ground. You think you're understanding the past. You're not. You're chaining yourself to their choice. Their absence becomes your mirror, and it lies. You don't control their steps, Marcus Aurelius would say. Their leaving isn't your verdict. It's their path, not your failure. Their absence is a signal, not a sentence. You don't need to carry it. You don't need to prove you're enough. Withdraw, and you stand. Why do you blame yourself? To make sense of rejection? To rewrite the story? You think guilt will bring them back. It won't. It only traps you in a loop of regret. Stop. Look. Their choice isn't your weight. Turn away. Focus on your breath, your steps. That's not running. That's reset. The quiet holds, and you don't chase. You didn't beg. You didn't dig. But the thought creeps in. Again. You weren't enough. They're leaving. It proves it. You feel it. The weight of regret. You replay the moment. The words. The silence. You search for your flaw. You think, if you find it, you'll fix yourself. You make sense of their choice. You're wrong. Each blame is a chain you add. The cost is deep, but silent. Each thought builds invisible pain. It doesn't show, not to the world, but it cuts. Your discipline frays, your clarity dims, your ground slips, and you don't notice. You think you're understanding their absence. You're not. You're punishing you for their steps. Their leaving isn't your mirror. It's their path. You don't own their choices, Marcus Aurelius would say. Their absence isn't your verdict. It's their weight, not your failure. Withdraw, and you stand. That's not running. That's strength. Why do you blame? To dull rejection. To rewrite the past. You think guilt will change it. It won't. It traps you in a loop of loss. Stop. Feel your breath. See the room. That's your truth, not their exit. That's your reset, not their fault. Their absence stays, but it's not your chain. You don't carry it. You don't let it define you. Withdraw, and you keep your strength. Pain doesn't mean truth. The weight lifts, slightly. You're still here. What happens when you stop chasing their shadow? When you let the past stay where it belongs? Principle 6. You don't chase shadows. The memory flickers. A moment. Their laugh. A shared glance. It hits. Uninvited. You let it linger. You dive in. You replay it. Frame by frame. You think it keeps them close. That holding these fragments keeps you whole. You attack to what was. You tell yourself it's harmless. Just a memory. Just a moment. But it's not. It's a chain you forge yourself. Each replay costs you. Not loud, not obvious, but real. You're not living here. You're there, in a past that's gone. Each thought pulls you from presence. It feeds numbness. You don't feel it at first, but it grows. Your day blurs. Your focus fades. You're chasing shadows and losing ground. Their memory becomes your anchor, and it sinks you. The past isn't your home, Seneca would say. Those moments, they're echoes, not your truth. You don't live in them. You don't need them. They're shadows, cast by a light that's moved. Let them fade. That's not loss. That's freedom. Why do you hold on? To feel alive? To fight the emptiness? You think memories keep you safe. They don't. They trap you in a story that's done. Stop. Breathe. See the room. Feel your feet. That's your ground, not their shadow. Let go, and you stay here. The past flickers, but you don't dive in. You didn't blame. You didn't carry their weight. But the memory lingers, soft. Their voice, a moment, a glance. It pulls, gently. You feel it, the urge to hold it, to relive it, to keep it close. You think it's safe. Just a memory, just a shadow. You attack to what was. You tell yourself it's nothing. You're wrong. Each linger is a chain you weave. The cost is quiet, but real. Each replay steals presents. You're not here. You're there. In a moment that's gone. Your focus blurs. Your breath catches. Numbness grows. And you don't see it. You think you're holding on to them. You're not. You're losing you to a shadow that can't hold you back. The past isn't your ground. It's a trap. The past isn't your anchor, Seneca would say. Those moments, they're echoes. Not your home. You don't live in them. You don't need them. Let go, and you stand. That's not loss. That's freedom. Why do you linger? To feel alive? To fight emptiness? You think memories keep you whole. They don't. They bind you to a story that's done. Stop. See the room. Feel your feet. That's your truth. Not their shadow. That's your center. Not their light. The memory comes. But you don't chase. You don't dive. You let it pass. Like clouds. You don't need their light. You have your own. Release, and you move forward. Let go isn't weakness. Seneca walked away from Nero's court. His mind stayed free, unburdened by power's pull. What happens when you refuse to explain your exit? When you leave without a word? Principle cedem. You don't explain your exit. You decide to leave, to step back. Their silence, their chaos. It's not yours anymore. But the urge comes to justify, to tell them why. To make them understand. You draft the message. You rehearse the words. You think explaining will clear the air, will prove you're not weak, will show you're still in control. So you type, pause, type again. You think they need to know. You're wrong. Each word you offer traps you. Not them. You're not clarifying. You're begging for their nod, for their approval. Each explanation pulls you back into their frame. It costs you your time, your peace, your ground. You're not freeing yourself. You're chaining yourself to their judgment. Their silence grows louder because you keep speaking. Your silence speaks enough, Epictetus would say. You don't owe them reasons. You don't owe them closure. Their chaos is their weight. Not your story. You leave, and that's enough. That's not hiding. That's power. Why do you explain? To avoid their fear? To soften their rejection? You think words will justify you. They won't. They only bind you to a game that's done. Stop. Delete the draft. Walk away. Say nothing. That's not running. That's strength. You don't need their understanding. You have your own. The silence holds. And you don't chase shadows. You didn't linger. You let the past fade. But the urge comes to justify, to tell them why you're leaving, to make your exit clear. You feel it. The need to speak, to prove you're not weak, to show you're still in control. You think they deserve to know that your words will close the door. You draft the reason. You pause, but it burns. You're wrong. Each explanation is a chain you tie. The cost is subtle, but deep. Each word pulls you back into their frame. You're not freeing yourself. You're begging for their nod, their understanding. You give them your time, your peace, your ground, and get nothing. You think you're clarifying. You're not. You're binding you to their judgment. Their silence grows louder because you keep talking. You don't owe them reasons, Epictetus would say. Your exit is yours, not their story. You don't need their approval. You don't need their nod. Say nothing, and you stand. That's not hiding. That's strength. Why do you justify? To avoid fear? To soften rejection? You think explaining will save you. It won't. It traps you in their chaos. Stop. Walk away. Keep your words. That's not running, that's awareness. You don't need their understanding. You have your own. The door closes, and you don't knock. You don't explain. You don't look back. Detach, and you stay free. Detachment is a form of respect. The silence holds, and you're still standing. What happens when you guard your time? When you refuse to let their chaos steal your hours? Principle 8. Time isn't theirs to take. Their drama calls. A text, a post, a fleeting mention. It pulls, and you answer. You read their words. You scroll their chaos. You give them minutes, hours, days. You think it's nothing, just a moment, just a check. You tell yourself, you're in control. You're wrong. Each second you give is a second they take. Your time bleeds into their void. The cost isn't loud, it's silent. Each moment you spend erodes your inner weight. You're not gaining clarity, you're losing it. Your focus frays, your presence fades. You please their chaos. You let it steer you. You think you're holding on. You're not. You're slipping into loss. Their noise drowns your silence, and you let it. Your time is your line, Seneca would say. Their chaos isn't your burden. You don't owe them your hours. You don't owe them your mind. Draw the line. Turn the screen off. That's not avoidance. That's strength. Why do you give it? To prove you care? To fill the emptiness? You think time will bridge the gap? It won't. It only drains you of what's yours. Stop. Disconnect. Guard your hours. That's not running. That's presence. Your time is your ground. The noise stops when you choose. You don't feed their chaos. You don't give your hours. Hold the line, and you stay whole. Not doing is power too. Why didn't you answer? I didn't need to. The words hang, and you're still here. What happens when you let their pain stay theirs? When you refuse to carry their weight? Principle 9. You don't hold their weight. Their pain surfaces. A call, a message, a story shared. They're hurting, and you feel it. You listen, you comfort, you carry it. You think it's your duty to ease their load, to fix their chaos. You suppress your own ground to hold theirs. You tell yourself it's kindness, it's care. You're wrong. Each burden you take is a weight you don't need. The cost creeps in. Silent, heavy. Their pain becomes yours. It clouds your mind. It pulls you from center. You lose hours, sleep, clarity. You're not helping them. You're sinking yourself. Isolation grows not from their absence, but from your choice to carry what isn't yours. You think you're saving them. You're not. You're losing you. Their burden isn't your chain, Marcus Aurelius would say. You don't control their pain. You don't own their chaos. Their weight is theirs, not your task. Let it stay. That's not coldness. That's command. Why do you hold it? To prove you're enough? To avoid their rejection? You think carrying their pain binds you closer? It doesn't. It traps you. in their storm. Stop. Step back. Let their pain be. That's not running. That's presence. You don't need to fix them. You need to stay whole. Their chaos stays. But it's not your load. You don't carry it. You don't break for it. Release. And you keep your ground. You can end without drama. The storm passes, and you're still standing. What happens when you face the quiet? When you stop running from its sting? Principle 10. You don't fear the quiet. The room falls silent. No notifications, no voices, just you and the quiet. It stings. You feel it. The urge to fill it, to scroll, to call, to drown the silence with noise. You think the quiet is your enemy, that it hides pain, that it means you're alone, so you run, you avoid, you chase anything to keep it at bay. You're wrong. The quiet isn't your trap. It's your ground. Each escape costs you. The noise you chase doesn't heal. It buries. It feeds anxiety. You think you're staying safe? You're not. You're losing stillness. Your mind races. Your breath shortens. Your center slips, and you don't see it. The quiet you fear is where you rebuild, but you keep running into chaos that isn't yours. The quiet isn't your enemy, Seneca would say. It's a mirror, not a void. You don't need to fill it. You don't need to fight it. Sit with it. That's not weakness. That's strength. The silence is where you see. Why do you run? To hide from emptiness? To outrun grief? You think noise will save you. It won't. It traps you in a loop of distraction. Stop. Breathe. Feel the quiet. Let it stay. That's not falling. That's presence. You don't need to fear it. You need to hold it. The silence settles, and you're still here. You don't run. You don't fill it. Sit with it, and you find your ground. Stillness is enough. A man checked her post daily. One day, he stopped. His mind cleared, like fog lifting. What happens when you stop replaying the pain? When you let the moment pass without feeding it? Principle 11. You don't replay the pain. The memory strikes. Their words. Their silence. The moment they left. It cuts. Sharp. You feel it. And you dive in. You reeked. You let the scene play. Again. Again. You think you're understanding it. That reliving it will dull the edge. You're wrong. Each replay sharpens the blade. You're not healing. You're bleeding into grief you don't need to carry. The cost is hidden, but real. Each loop traps you in Denny. You lose the present. Your mind locks on a moment that's gone. Your breath catches. Your ground shifts. You think you're facing the pain. You're not. You're feeding it. You're giving it power to pull you back, to keep you there, in a story that's no longer yours. The past isn't your script, Marcus Aurelius would say. You don't live in that moment. You don't own its weight. It's a shadow, not your truth. Let it pass. That's not running. That's command. The pain is a signal, not your chain. Why do you replay it? To find meaning? To fight rejection? You think reliving it will change it. It won't. It traps you in a cycle of loss. Stop. Observe. See the thought. Don't chase it. Breathe through it. That's not weakness. That's awareness. You don't need to live it again. You need to let it go. The memory comes, but you don't play it. You don't feed it. You let it fade. Like smoke. Observe. And you stay free. Pain doesn't mean truth. The pain passes, and you're still here. What happens when you stop seeking their answer? When you claim your worth without their nod? Principle 12. You don't need their answer. Their silence haunts, No reply. No reason. No closure. You feel it. The pull to know. To understand. To get their answer. You think it'll free you. That their words, their nod, will make you whole. So you wait. You hope blindly. You check for signs. You hold your breath for a truth that's theirs, not yours. You're wrong. Their answer isn't your key. The cost is heavy, but quiet. Each wait deepens. Rejection. It steals your awareness. Your mind locks on their choice, not yours. You lose days, weeks, to a question they'll never answer. You think you're seeking clarity. You're not. You're giving them power over your ground. Their silence isn't your truth, but you let it be. Your worth doesn't wait for their nod. Epictetus would say, you don't need their reasons. You don't need their light. Your truth is enough. Their silence is their weight, not your chain. Disengage, and you stand. Why do you wait? To prove you're seen? To fill the emptiness? You think their answer will save you. It won't. It traps you in their story. Stop. Turn away. Feel your breath. That's your answer. That's your center. You don't need their words. You have your own. The silence stays, but it's not your cage. You don't seek their truth. You don't wait for their nod. Disengage, and you keep your strength. You don't owe anything. A man sat alone, his phone dark. He didn't check. His breath steadied, and the world didn't end. What happens when you refuse their chaos? When you hold your line, unmoved? Principle 13. You don't break for their chaos. Their storm hits. A message. A call. A sudden flare of drama. It pulls hard. You feel it. The urge to dive in. To respond. To react. To fix their chaos. To calm their noise. You think it's your role. To steady their ship. To answer their call. You tell yourself, it's just this once. You're wrong. Each reaction feeds their storm, not yours. The cost is silent, but deep. Each response shatters your cold peace. You lose your ground, your breath, your center. You're not saving them. You're sinking yourself. Their chaos becomes your weight. It pulls you into emptiness. You think you're helping. You're not. You're breaking for a storm that isn't yours. Their storm isn't your weight, Seneca would say. You don't own their chaos. You don't need to sail it. Their noise is theirs, not your chain. Hold the line and stay unmoved. That's not coldness. That's strength. Why do you break? To prove you care. To avoid their rejection. You think reacting binds you closer. It doesn't. It traps you in their waves. Stop. Pause. Let their storm pass. That's not running. That's awareness. You don't need to answer. You need to stay whole. The chaos rages, but you don't move. You don't break. You don't dive in. Hold the line, and you keep your peace. Silence isn't surrender. The phone screen dims. Your hands rest. The room holds its breath. No sound, no pull, just you and the quiet. You didn't reach for the old words. You didn't chase the shadow. That pause, it's yours. The silence isn't heavy. It's clear. You didn't react. You didn't explain. You didn't carry their weight. That moment, you held your ground. Not theirs, yours. The void didn't pull you in, act, you let it be. What pulls you back when you already know it's gone? You don't answer. You don't need to. The question sits, unmoved, like you. The silence isn't empty. It's where you stand. Stillness is enough.